Hi everyone, just another update on the small business support that's being announced and released by the government and stuff that's still to come. There seems to be a distinct lack of support for smaller owner-managed businesses out there that maybe don't have employees, don't have business premises. So it looks as though there's some support coming. Just before we get into that, a couple of brief updates. From my first video that talked about the job retention scheme and the government paying 80% of employee wages, it does look like that's going to apply for wages from the 1st of March onwards, which is great news. And it's going to apply to any employees who are on payroll on the 29th of Feb. It's going to be the 80%, by the way, the calculation is going to be based on payroll for a defined period. We don't know what that is, but quite likely I would suggest going to be February, but that's speculation. Companies House have also announced today, those of you who've got limited companies, that if you apply in advance before your filing deadline, you can get a 3-month extension on your company's accounts filings. They're going to build like an online application system, very simple, and it'll be fast tracked as long as you say that the extension is required due to the coronavirus crisis. And that should be pretty straightforward. I would suggest, though, again, being an accountant, I would do, it's, if at all possible, I wouldn't take advantage of that, because at a time like this, you really need to know where you are financially. If you want us to get your accounts done sooner than normal, then by all means get in touch. People need to know where they stand with regards to profitability, cash and tax bills. So, but undoubtedly there are so many businesses out there that are going to be in such a position they just can't handle that right now. It's totally understandable why they might want an extension, and that is available should you need it. So the main part of today's video is about support for those kind of smaller owner-managed businesses. I've talked about support for wages, and I've talked about grant funding, which qualify based on size of your business premises. So if you're a contractor, limited company, if you're a small self-employed individual, if you don't have employees, there doesn't seem to appear to be a great deal of support for you. So it's there seemed to be there was some documents circulated yesterday that talked what was being discussed in Parliament, which hopefully will be released by the end of the week when they've sort of clarified matters further. So again, all of this is speculation. It's not been announced, so it's not 100% fact. But it looks as though at this moment in time, they're talking about paying those who are what they're terming self-employed or freelancers 80% of the average of your last 3 years' earnings, or £2,917 per month, whichever is lower. Okay, so again, to be announced. And the interesting thing on that is the terminology. Again, they're using very simple language because it's in Parliament for politicians. But self-employed from an HMRC perspective means if you are a sole trader, i.e. you have sole trade income on your tax return. For mortgage purposes, a lot of the time, if you're the director shareholder of a limited company, you're classified as self-employed. And it confuses a lot of people all the time, so you're not alone if you get confused by these terms. But for the purpose of taxation, HMRC, self-employed means you're a sole trader. What I find interesting is that they use the term freelancers as well. So that I would hope, again, fingers crossed, that using the term freelancers, that means that single person limited companies, so director shareholder of limited companies, that maybe don't have employees and therefore can't take advantage of the job retention scheme, there's going to be support for you guys there too. But we wait to see. We should have more by the end of the week. Quite a few clients have asked me about whether directors can take advantage of the 80% contribution towards wages that employees can get. Again, no clarification, so we can't be sure, but I'd be skeptical. It's possible, but I wouldn't rely on it. The reason I wouldn't rely on it is because one of the conditions of being a furloughed worker is that the employee is no longer allowed to work. So even if it were allowable, which they may yet prevent, the director / employee would have to cease to work for the business. Therefore, the business would have to be at the very least frozen, as it were. So we'll keep you posted on that. You know, I myself am a director shareholder of a limited company, so I need to know these things. So as soon as I know, you guys will know. So hopefully that gives a bit of reassurance that there is support coming for you out there, and we should have more by end of this week, start of next. In the meantime, though, it's about managing your cash and what you can do there. So those of you who are VAT registered, HMRC have announced they are automatically allowing you to defer any VAT bills that become due from, I think, 20th of March to the end of June. So that means that any VAT liability you've got for your March, April, May quarter, you can automatically defer that to the end of the tax year, which is 5th of April next year. Okay, if you've got the money and business hasn't been affected, then great news. I would suggest you pay it as normal. Government needs as much money as it can get at the moment, but more so just because you don't want this to be where liabilities rack up unnecessarily. But for those of you, a lot of people are going to be in the same boat. It's going to be really useful respite for them, and therefore take advantage of it if you need to. It appears that if you're on the direct debit scheme for payment of your VAT, then you would have to cancel the direct debit, otherwise it will automatically be taken. HMRC are working on the basis that if you've got the money, you can pay it, and you will. If you want to defer it, then you just don't make the payment, and then they would just expect that by the end of the tax year. There's also tax deferral available for the second payment on account due in July for self-assessed income. So the terminology from the announcement was that it's available for the self-employed. So that, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, self-employed is anybody who has got sole trade income on their tax return. It doesn't appear, not been 100% clarified, but it doesn't appear that it's available for people, directors, shareholders who've got dividend income and therefore have a payment on account due to taxation on their dividend income. So that's unfortunate, but again, we'll see. Just to bring those two things together, though, they do seem to be trying to extend the time to pay functionality with HMRC, so allowing more more resource and more time to be put into their time to pay support system. So any business that's struggling with any liability, be it PAYE, VAT, corporation tax, self-assessed income, all of that, it looks as though they're going to give additional support and maybe leniency. Everything that I'm reading, everything I'm hearing, seems that the government are trying to get everybody through the next 3 months in every which way that they can, and then we'll reassess then. So you've got support for wages, you've got support for the self-employed, you've got VAT, self-assessment tax deferral, and the government have just announced the specifics that we were waiting on around the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, which is loans for small businesses that the government will guarantee to the tune of 80%. But there's quite a lot to take in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably follow up on the small business loan scheme in a bit more detail in my next video. So keep the questions coming. I'm trying to update everybody based on the information that you guys have given to me, and hopefully you found that useful. So thanks, and speak to you soon. Bye.